we're just 3 days until the NFL draft. A lot of news flying around. We'll get you updated on all of it. And a lot of it has to do with the draft. Some of it doesn't. We'll get you caught up. Don't worry. Welcome in. We're so glad you're here. We're so glad that Mark Spears is here in the flesh.
Boogie.
Why are you so close to
Real talk, this feels dumb.
What? That you're... I think you scooted over.
Why
I think you're supposed to be over here.
Am I on the right mark?
Okay. We have marks on this set. It's okay. I like you being that close. Dan's here. We got Mina Kimes and Adam Schefter. A lot to get to today. And let's begin with the Eagles beginning voluntary workouts today. One player not in the building, A.J. Brown. Adam, where do things stand between the Eagles and their star wideout?
Laura, my understanding is that a trade to New England is the most likely scenario and likely to happen on or after June 1st. You're not going to see an A.J. Brown trade this week during the draft. The financial salary cap implications would be too severe for the Philadelphia Eagles to carry. But once that passes, and once they can spread out his cap charges, which occur on June 1st, that is when a trade is likely to happen. The two sides have had discussions. They're going to have more discussions. There's no commitment or agreement in place, but it sounds like there is a real understanding that that is the most likely scenario, that A.J. Brown will wind up with the New England Patriots once we get to the month of June.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that for sure. There's a lot of news coming through. I hear Adam's phone going off. That can only mean good things for all of us here as NFL fans. Despite the ups and downs for Brown's tenure with the Eagles, he's still been one of the best receivers in franchise history. He's 81 yards per game, second best all time. He's the only Eagle ever with 4 different 1,000-yard seasons. That's 4 straight seasons of 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, the second longest active streak in the league. Dan, how would a guy like A.J. Brown change things for Drake May in that offense? Because I think we should live in a world where this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, Drake May had an MVP caliber season. He really didn't have a guy that they could just put up by himself and say, go win.
Right.
And so that speaks to volumes of Josh McDaniels, obviously their offensive coordinator, his creativity, the emergence of some of their young players. Stephon Diggs was great, but also just there's only so many guys in the league that are walking first downs. A.J. Brown is one of them. I mean, we revere Jamar Chase as the guy that we often say put out by himself. He's that true X one-on-one guy, and no matter the coverage, get him the ball. A.J. Brown is in that class. When A.J.'s playing, he's top 5 in the league in just about everything. And so when you're talking about now having a quarterback or a receiver as a quarterback that you can just trust, I need a first down. Where's A.J. Brown? Throw him the football. So if the trade happens, I think all of us expect it to, it now changes the way that Drake May can play just from the line of scrimmage.
Well, I love that you brought up Drake May, because it's the age-old thing that Mina talks about all the time. Young quarterback on a rookie deal, solidify him by bringing him pieces when he's shown you he can play at a very high level. But also the relationship with Mike Vrabel. All of that ended badly in Tennessee with these players when you see where Tennessee has been. Now, I think they on the uptick now, but when you start to think about the New England Patriots, and I remember being there for Monday night and in the playoff game, and you saw the relationship between the head coach and player, because we are not going to get past the elephant in the room that this relationship in Philly seems to be scorned. It seems to be a lot going on internally with A.J. Brown as well. So a trade coming about, some familiarity, a young quarterback on the ascend, a team that you saw go to the Super Bowl last year, and just a fresh start. I'm actually excited about it, especially with what we know New England to be as far as how young that football team is.
Again, Adam's reporting today, A.J. Brown expected to be a Patriot after June 1st. Mina, how do you see Brown impacting that Pats offense if he ends up there?
I mean, Dan described it best. He gets you a bucket when you need it. He's the exact type of receiver that they've been looking for. He has the size and the ball skills that few corners in the NFL can handle, wins at all 3 levels. He affects the way defenses play you, and that's something I wanted to zero in on here, because over the last 3 years, the New England Patriots have faced man coverage more than any other team in the NFL, over 50% of the time. In that same time frame, which receiver leads all receivers league-wide in yards per route run against man coverage? It's A.J. Brown. Now, that means they're going to face less of it. They're going to face more too high, which should open up things for everyone else. The run game for some of those other receivers who can work underneath. There'll be a trickle-down effect just by having him on the field. So for New England, I think this made a ton of sense, especially because while they have a young quarterback, they are on a playoff timeline. They're just in the Super Bowl, so this is the kind of player that you want to add.
Yeah, think about the roles, too. I mean, you're going to have two just big-bodied starting receivers, Kayshon Boutte and A.J. Brown on the outside. Dobbs is plenty capable of working on the inside. You've got Pop Douglas still. You've got a burner and Kyle Williams. Don't forget Mac Hollins. And so this went from, at this point last year, like a significant weakness in their football team to now you have so many, and for Josh McDaniels, who's a mad scientist with just creating matchups off roles, you have so many different guys that can fill and kind of thrive in so many different roles with their physical kind of abilities. It's a big deal.
Mina, this makes me think about Thursday. I mean, 3 days away from the draft. How do you see the Browns situation impacting Philly's decisions on draft night?
I think they're going to have to take a receiver. The question is when. You know, Philadelphia does love to address the trenches, and they might do that in the first round. But I got to say, I would consider Denzel Boston the Washington wide receiver if I were them. Not just because, yes, he has a skill set that does have some similarities to A.J. Brown's game in terms of the size, the frame, the contested catch ability, but I also think Jalen Hurts, because of his proclivities as a quarterback, needs that type of receiver. Even though I think Devontae Smith can take on more volume and he's so talented, you do want a guy who can win on the perimeter, win those goal balls downfield. So I would love Boston's fit in this offense if A.J. Brown was gone.
I like it. I think Boston's got kind of lost in some of the receiver conversation, and he shouldn't be. The Eagles, by the way, they have 8 picks overall in this year's draft, 6 in the first 4 rounds. So a lot. I know. Howie. Okay, back to the blockbuster trade of the weekend that changed the trajectory of the draft. Dexter Lawrence is a Bengal now, and the Giants have the 5th and 10th pick in the first round on Thursday. The Bengals, as you see here, the footage, look at the big fella, introducing their new D tackle earlier today. Here's what he had to say.
The saying kept coming to me, you know, you got to be uncomfortable to get comfortable. And, you know, like when this opportunity came, I jumped at it because I knew I was going to be uncomfortable. I got to learn a lot of new names, you know, move to a new city and, you know, bring my family and my dogs and find that place. So I knew it was going to be a little uncomfortable. That's the process, though. And I think I adjust well and I handle those things well. So I was just excited to be here, especially with my dog BJ, to play with him, you know, get another opportunity to play with him and, you know, take this thing to another level.
You don't have to take detailed notes on Dexter Lawrence. You know, those are guys you've known since he came into the draft, that you don't have to remind yourself the presence he has on the field and the way you have to game plan around him and the production he creates for those around him.
All right, we're going to talk about the Giants side in a little bit, but let's talk the Bengals side of this first, Adam. Why did they feel like this was the right deal for them?
Well, Laura, I think there are a couple of things to keep in mind here. Number one, I think that they have to make an effort for this team to win as soon as possible to prevent any speculation in the future about Joe Burrow's future in Cincinnati. If this team continues to struggle, there will continue to be questions about whether or not Joe Burrow would want to be there in the long term. And so the Bengals felt like to go out and get a player like Dexter Lawrence, who has been double-teamed consistently, who's been a top defensive tackle in the league despite his down year last year. They felt like they were getting a player that would be better than any player they could get in the draft at number 10. And as they assessed the board, they felt like this was a no-brainer. And even if the defensive players fall off the board, it just reinforces the notion. So the Bengals were willing to do something that this organization never has done, and that's trade a top 10 pick in the first round for a veteran player. Never happened in Bengals franchise history, but they know what he can do for that defense. They know how important this year is to the franchise and to Joe Burrow, and they decided that now was the time to be ultra aggressive.
Chef, you said a mouthful in the beginning. This was a big part about Joe Burrow and putting the defense on the field that could solidify what they've been doing offensively. It's not that you have to be the best defense in the NFL. You just have to be middle of the pack. The dude was winning games with an awful defense and almost put themselves back in the playoff hunt. The other thing is this, too. They brought Bouye Mafe in the offseason, Jonathan Allen, another defensive tackle that's had really good runs at every stop that he's had, and now you add Dexter Lawrence. What couldn't this team do last year? They couldn't rush the pass outside of Trey Hendrickson, and they couldn't stop the run. Now they fixed and bolstered both of that. The middle of this defense is going to be a problem for a lot of offenses when you start thinking about the physicality in which these guys play with. And Myles Murphy flashed as well. Here's the thing, too. If you're Cincinnati, when do you break the trend? When do you break the trend of being this conservative organization that don't want to go for it all? Now, a step in the right direction was the fact that you locked up T. Higgins and Jamar Chase under Joe Burrow's request. So I don't know how much credit I give them for making that decision, but these type of moves are championship mindset type moves, and I like the fact that Dexter Lawrence was a guy because now you have a real defensive identity when you bring him in.
I can't get over how much Marcus looks like Dexter Lawrence.
What?
We don't look alike.
What?
Dan,
Yo,
Dan,
100%
come
look alike.
That's, you know what? There's something bad we could say about that. We're going to leave it, though.
Well, all black people look alike.
Hey,
all big dudes, all big black dudes look alike.
No, but y'all do.
Dan.
Dan.
Hey,
we don't look alike.
Marcus, all backup quarterbacks look alike. So
I mean, there's a little bit of reality to that.
I think that's true.
Y'all do, though.
They all leave 2 buttons unbuttoned on their shirt. I know that.
He's going to do a third, and we're all going to get nervous.
Can I ask you a question? Not nervous. What do you think is more impact? I don't know if I've ever asked you this. What do you think is more impactful or beneficial? A dominant interior guy helping their edge rushers, or dominant edge rushers helping interior guys?
I think it's a dominant interior guy. I've said this for a while, Dio. I thought every player that played with Aaron Donald benefited and got better. I thought every player that played with Chris Jones benefited and got better. And when you draft guys knowing that a guy is going to dominate a double team, now you can look at your edge rushers about who can win one-on-one.
Because it's like, can Boye Mafe become even better than he was?
Absolutely.
Or a Myles Murphy, can he show Shamar Stewart, their first-round pick from last year? Maybe they're not going to be stars.
But also, though, like to your point, I don't want people to forget, John Allen is a real good pass rusher from the interior as well.
Yeah.
So both of those guys will help benefit, but Dexter commands so much attention because you can't leave guards one-on-one with him. If the center slides to him, now they've solidified the other 3 technique position. But he's one of those, what Mike T called him, a force multiplier.
There we go.
Mike Tannenbaum.
Mike T makes
Mike Tannenbaum.
Mike Tannenbaum. Yeah.
Go ahead, Adam.
Dan, you and Adam look
and
alike.
I think Dexter Lawrence steps into a play.
I don't know.
I can tell you this, Marcus. I got a lot more hair on my chest than Dan.
Oh, that's why Adam doesn't do it.
You got to shave it, Shefty. You got to manscape it.
I feel like I always
Dan
do
must be
this.
manscaped.
Okay, anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
We digress. I think Dexter Lawrence is stepping into a place that's going to be quite comfortable. B.J. Hill is along the defensive line. He played with Dexter Lawrence in New York. They have T. Higgins there, 2 Clemson guys.
Yep.
I think this is a place where he's going to be excited to go. They're excited to have him. And again, I don't think we could emphasize enough how important this season is to Joe Burrow and making sure that it goes the way that the Bengals want. If it doesn't, I think there's going to be a lot of speculation that comes up in Cincinnati. If they win, everything's all good and it's quieted down. If it doesn't, a lot of questions will come up after the season.
All right. I like how Adam has to be the. Oh,
See, y'all
come
cannot
on.
tell me that y'all don't look alike.
They look totally different. I think
You're
look totally
out of your
different.
mind, Laura.
Dan,
They're 2 enormous, bald black dudes.
It's just how you see it, Dan.
You have a beard and he
Okay,
doesn't.
and you guys, look at you 2. Yeah. Twinsies.
2 little
I don't know. Hey, I don't
white
know
dudes.
I don't know who that's a compliment to.
with hair.
Maybe we're all in a good place, you know?
Nobody looks
Everybody
like
looks good.
I like how Adam had to get us back together there because I will just let it go because it's so entertaining to me. Adam's like, can I be the adult in the room here?
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you,
later
Shefty.
on, we are going to react to the Giants side of this because now they've got the 5th and the 10th overall pick. How do they use it? We're just getting started on NFL Live with the 49ers extending all-pro offense. Schefter back with some top stories here on NFL Live. Let's start in L.A. where the Rams began voluntary workouts today.
Oh, Laura, with Puka Nacua at rehab earlier this offseason, he was back at work with the team today. A notable development is he was back in the building working out with his team. The Rams were happy to have him back, and that's certainly an encouraging sign for them. Obviously, his contract is still out there right now. We'll see what happens with that, but he's back with the team for now, and that's what matters. Meanwhile, the Colts, who signed Alec Pierce to that mammoth deal during the offseason, have lost him for the remainder of the offseason. Alec Pierce underwent ankle surgery. He'll miss the offseason program. The surgery was addressed to help him with a nagging injury that he played through last season that was bothering him. The Colts are hoping now he's ready for training camp and it won't be a long-term issue right now. And today, the Dallas Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey became the highest paid kicker in NFL history, a 4-year, $28 million extension that included $20 million guaranteed. He was a restricted free agent. The deadline to sign him to an offer sheet from another team expired Friday. He had to be in Dallas, and he gets done that big deal. Another big deal that got done today. Trent Williams and the 49ers reaching agreement on a 2-year, $50 million deal that includes $37 million guaranteed. The deal essentially has been agreed to for a couple of weeks. They still were going over the language. The language was finalized today, and now the 49ers get back their future Hall of Fame left tackle to man that position. He's under contract for the next 2 years. He's been a Hall of Fame player and also Hall of Fame businessman. Trent Williams has killed it on the contract front.
Congrats to him. The big fella next to me loves it. Mina, what do you make of this move and maybe how it should affect the way that the 49ers approach this draft?
It always had to get done because everything San Francisco has done this offseason suggests they do recognize this is their Super Bowl window, right? Signing Mike Evans, trading for Odigizua. And so Williams, who is the linchpin of that offensive line, has to be in the building. I'm not surprised they tried to get this done, but I don't think this stops them necessarily from drafting his successor or depth, frankly. I mean, Williams is 37 years old, missed some games. The Niners saw what life is like without him. You see the on-off splits in the run game in particular, and I think there's some intriguing offensive tackles who might be there at the end of the first round. I really like Caleb Lomu out of Utah as a developmental option for them, but because they have Williams and McKivitz, that player doesn't have to play immediately, which, if you're a franchise, is the best place to be in, quite frankly, when you're drafting linemen.
Yeah, when you think about what they need and what they'll do going forward, 49ers averages 3.8 yards per rush last season, 30th in the NFL. Let's get to some more news and some things happening around the league. New on NFL Live, Josh Allen was asked why he was in attendance at today's voluntary workout.
I think having a new coach, understanding that process, and just trying to be here, and obviously we got a lot of new guys, a lot of new coaches, new faces in the building. Just wanting to make sure that my presence is felt here, and trying to relay what Joe has in store for us, and make sure that, like I said earlier, I can be the best version of myself and be the best leader for this team that I can be.
Leadership on display. Dan, where should the focus be when the Bills are on the clock Thursday, though?
Yeah, I really believe it should be edge rusher. I know a lot of people are going to attach wide receiver. Reminder, they took a second-round pick and traded for DJ Moore. Keldrick Falk out of Auburn is a nice player. Could somehow Akeem Mesidor from Miami fall to them. I just think with where they are as a football team, and I think the way that they're stylistically built to play offense, they don't necessarily need another wide receiver. They need edge pressure, and I think inside linebacker help as well.
Yeah, Caden McDonald's a beast, too. You see Jordan Reed has him mocked there. New on NFL Live, Marcus, pay attention here. Dexter Lawrence had an answer in his introductory press conference. You're going to love this.
Twin, what up?
It seems like over the last couple of years, teams that have been really successful have had really good defensive lines. Yep. Why do you think that trend has been prevalent, really, over the last couple of years?
You know, we're the best athletes on the field. It's easy, man.
Why do you think BMB started?
Hey!
To continue to prove that point. Sexy Dexy. We got receivers dancing like us. We got people on TV trying to dance like Sexy Dexy. We are trendsetters. We are not twins. We are trendsetters, okay?
The best was when we came in here and somebody asked Swag if he could still dunk.
Yeah.
He said no, but
No,
what?
I can do a killer layup, though.
Tell him.
My
When was the
layup
last
package
time
is
you dunked?
Kyrie-like.
When was the last time you
Relay.
dunked? 20 years?
Yeah.
Dan, when's the last time you
15,
dunked?
20 years ago?
Never.
Never. You never could dunk?
I could never dunk on a dribble. I could dunk.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you don't know what it's like to be me.
I don't.
He doesn't, and he'll never.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
but a
don't
lot of
want to.
A lot of people at home watching on their couch, they know what it's like to be you. Coming up next on NFL Live with 2 picks in the top 10. Could the Giants possibly end up with Caleb Downs? We'll discuss. Plus, Dan, we'll talk about what makes the Ohio State safety so special. That's next.
Yes, Dad, I wore my jump
You used to walk around school with them string shoes?
Every day.
You're watching NFL Live, presented by Draft Profile, is brought to you by Ego, powered beyond belief. Let's take another look back at the blockbuster trade that we saw just a couple days ago. The Giants sending Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals, who were in desperate need for some help on the D-line, and they got back the 10th overall pick in return. They already had pick number 5 as well. So now they have really impactful picks in this first round. Adam, what are you hearing about the Giants' plans for their 2 top 10 picks on Thursday night?
Well, Laura, new Giants head coach John Harbaugh is in uncharted territory. During his 18 years in Baltimore, he had 1 top 10 pick, and before he coaches his first game for the New York Giants, he'll have 2 top 10 picks. There are a lot of ways the Giants can go with these picks, and a lot will depend on how the first 4 picks Thursday night shake out. We don't know exactly whether there'll be 2 pass rushers that go before the Giants or one of them surprisingly will fall to them, which is certainly a possibility here if the Arizona Cardinals can't trade out at number 3 and if they go ahead and take Jeremiah Love at that spot, which is in consideration. The Titans will come up next. If they opted against a pass rusher, which is certainly in play here, then one of those pass rushers could be there for the Giants. As it is, I think a lot of people feel like they could come away with one of these Ohio State defensive players, Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. They also have an obvious admiration and respect for Jordan Tyson. They were at his pro workday on Friday, impressed with him, really seemed to like him. Again, a lot of ways the Giants can go, but they feel like they'll come out of this with 2 key players.
All right, keep an eye on that. The Jordan Tyson play is really interesting. A lot of people talked about his talent. I think Dan tweeted out as soon as the trade happened, Jordan Tyson, you are a Giant. So I don't know what Dan knows. Maybe he knows more than us. Jordan Reed, by the way, putting out an updated mock draft today that includes this trade. The Giants have 3 picks in the top 40 now. Jordan has New York taking Sonny Styles at 5 and his Buckeye teammate Caleb Downs at 10. That would be an impressive haul from some great defensive players. Dan Orlovsky hopped into the virtual world to break down the Ohio State safety.
Okay, Dan. You good at it.
Caleb Downs won the Jim Thorpe Award as the nation's best defensive back last season, and he's a true Swiss Army knife. He can play 10 of the 11 defensive positions and lined up literally all over the field at Ohio State in the last 2 seasons, spending time at safety, both corner positions, off-ball linebacker, and yes, edge rusher. Downs has rare football instincts and can impact the game in multiple ways. He's one of 3 players with multiple interceptions and at least 60 tackles in each of the last 3 years. And he had 253 total tackles in his college career. Downs finds the football at a different pace, which makes him impossible to throw against. He didn't allow a single touchdown in 823 coverage snaps at Ohio State, adding 4 interceptions and 9 PBUs in the last 2 seasons. Downs can simply do it all on defense, and we'll hear his name early in round 1.
Tell him, Dan. By the way, you can't play all those positions and not be incredible.
That's one thing you're good at.
You have to be incredibly smart to be able to do what he does. I think the football intelligence is a key piece of him, too.
Well, we got
I wasn't talking about you.
I don't want to go that far.
Mina, does Caleb Downs make sense in New York to you?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Downs makes sense most places, quite frankly. But when you look at the spine of this Giants defense, it's such a glaring need, both linebacker and safety. And the idea of potentially getting Styles and Downs to fill those needs would turn a real weakness on the roster into a strength if the draft were to somehow shake out that way for them. Both highly cerebral players. I mean, when you watch Downs, he's just constantly communicating on the field, both pre and post-snap. And it would address really what was the Giants' biggest problem last year, which was their abysmal run defense, 32nd league-wide in DVOA. When you watch Caleb and Styles, to me, they're the 2 best tacklers at their positions in the draft. So I would be pretty thrilled, especially, thinking about this team from a timeline perspective. that's your young core on defense, and you already have the really good edge rushers. They're one of the few teams, by the way, too, where you feel a little better about going at so-called lower value positions because they already have pass rushers, which, Marcus, very few teams in the NFL are set there, but the Giants might be one of them.
No doubt, MK. Nobody's going to bat an eye if this team takes Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs. They would be ecstatic, by the way. I just think if Love is anywhere in this conversation, that you would be hard-pressed not to think about it, knowing that you had a second pick where you could go a defensive guy. Maybe not one of those guys, but still get a really good, heavy defensive draft where somebody could come and impact that side of the ball. Jeremiah, to me, he's going to make a lot of people probably regret not taking him. I look at the impact that a Bijan Robinson has made, even though that team hasn't won a lot. But you think about a young quarterback in New York. John Harbaugh he wants to run the football at a high clip. He's had successful running backs in Baltimore his entire career, damn near. They've been one of the leading rushing teams. So I don't think you can just pass that pick with Love and say, well, we're not going to think about it because we need to build this defense in such a defensive-rich draft where you may be able to really get good players later on. I think Jeremiah Love's name is going to fly around in that room.
He's not going to still be there at 10, so you'd have to take him at 5.
At
right?
5,
Correct.
yeah.
And we'll get into as this week goes. I think Giants at 5 and 10. I wanted to hit on Downs a little bit. I think he plays a premium position in the NFL nowadays. About 2 or 3 years ago, our show started to talk about how football was kind of circling back to, running the football. And then the last year or two, it was a little bit more of offenses playing from underneath the center, multiple tight ends on the field. You and I grew up in the era where the nickel was as important a position as there was in football. And if I just look at the defenses that were really good last year.
They all had one.
Nicky Manwari in Seattle changed it. Cooper DeJean in Philly changed it. Derwin James in L.A. impacted it. Jalen Petrie in Houston changed it. McMillan in Denver. I just think he may not be your every down safety.
Yeah.
I think he's an every down nickel. And I just believe that is a premium position in the NFL.
You could go back to Tyrann Mathieu when he came to Kansas City.
100%.
You can go back. Yeah,
Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore.
Yeah, because, Mina, some people say, well, this is too high to take a safety. But to Dan's point, the versatility there and how he would actually play, right, makes you say at 5 it's not at all too high.
I think it also has to do with the alternatives because, if you don't take it, if there's a premium edge rusher, you take the edge rusher over the safety if you had a real need at corner because of the financial aspects, but that's just not the case, right, potentially for New York. The player he reminds me of, we're going to talk about this later in the week, is Brian Branch, actually.
Totally.
Who fell way too far for Detroit in terms of how I would use him, his potential as a blitzer as well, but the fact that you could have him closer to the box. He's so good against the run, but also has the ability to cover tight ends and backs. And I do think Branch's versatility, when you look at his snaps, it looks pretty similar to what Dan showed at the beginning of this when talking about Caleb Downs and how he was utilized at Ohio State.
And you got to deal with Dallas and Philly. So I get it.
And you got to deal with tight ends.
Yeah.
You got to deal with tight ends in every down.
Good numbers. By the way, speaking of Cowboys, we haven't talked about them all show, but we're doing it next.
Good.
We had to make
that suit does look good. I'm going to steal it.
He said he's a little too fancy today.
Yeah.
Hey, with major defensive struggles in Dallas last season right now.
On Aaron, I know you guys are going to ask me on Aaron. We've had some great communication with Aaron, and nothing's changed, but it's all been positive and good. And I said this to you guys in March when we met. He knows how we feel about him, and we know how he feels about us.
All right, so it's going to happen right at some point. But does the uncertainty with Rodgers change the way that Pittsburgh goes about the draft this week?
No, I don't think Aaron's decision should impact what the Steelers do in the draft. I do believe the Steelers should be in the quarterback conversation in this draft. I also believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be their starting quarterback. At some point, we have to get younger at the position and take a shot at a younger player and see if they could potentially be the future. Now, this is also a team that was slow last year. And so if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you don't like Ty Simpson, the young man out of Alabama, then go get more athletic at the safety position. Improve the interior offense of your offensive line. But I don't think Rodgers' decision should determine whether they take a quarterback in any round let alone in the first round.
Yeah, everything that you read about the way they'll approach this is just best player available right there for them, which makes sense in the first round.
Which seems like they do every year, right?
Yeah, it's part of their tradition. Let's go on trend now. Take a look at some of the notable storylines across the league. Let's start with the Cowboys. Dallas's defense was dreadful.
Only way but up, baby.
Woo! It can only go up from here. Ranking last in points per game, second worst in yards per play. The Cowboys struggled to stop the run and the pass. Their defense, the pass defense, couldn't get off the field on third downs. Marcus, how did the Cowboys reverse that trend Thursday night?
Yeah, look, Dallas has had actually a phenomenal track record in drafting corners. They identify them. They do a really good job. Will McClay and his staff, they draft really well in Dallas. I think these two guys are obviously the leaders in the clubhouse. Mansour Delane, who Dallas has liked, cornerbacks, go back to Mo Claiborne from LSU, played well for them. And you think about McCoy, had not been for the ACL, people talk about him potentially being the number one corner in this draft. We know Diggs left this team. They got traded him. They locked up. They locked up some guys, brought some guys in free agency. But I still think you want that stalwart number one that they've been searching for a while since Diggs suffered all those injuries.
All right, let's stay on trend here. They're taking us to the Emerald City, home of the champs. Seattle lost Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs, and Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL just a few months ago. So the rest of the running back room unproven, which begs the question, Mina, is running back the right choice for the champs at 32?
I think that's a little rich for the position, particularly because of the drop-off after Jeremiah Love. I also think Seattle could get a really good cornerback there, and I would address running back later in the draft. One potential player they could consider, Mike Washington Jr. Out of Arkansas. 6'2" and ran a 4.33 40. That's what it looks like on tape. He had 13 carries over 20 yards. You remember the explosive nature of Kenneth Walker's game was so important for the Seahawks in the postseason. I think they could get something similar from Washington later in the draft.
Yeah, Mike Washington Jr., a real bright spot in that Razorbacks offense. That speed is unbelievable. Would be a nice addition to what the Seahawks will be putting out there. Let's get Adam Schefter back in here with the draft notebook. And you just heard Mina mentioning Jeremiah Love. Feels like he's gaining a lot of traction here as a top 5 pick. What are you hearing?
Laura, a lot of people believe he's the best player in this draft. Now the question becomes, how high can he go? And there are people around the league who believe that Arizona will have him in the conversation to go number 3. The Cardinals are going to listen to offers for the 3rd overall pick. We'll see ultimately what they decide. There are many holes they have to address, but there have been people out there saying it could be difficult for them to pass on the best player if he happens to be there at 3, which we are expecting. Meanwhile, another player whose stock seems to be on the rise in light of his workout on Friday for teams is Jordan Tyson. There are a lot of people who believe that the New York Giants like him. There are people who believe the Saints like him. There are people who believe that we'll go back to the New York Jets and Arizona Cardinals as two teams that certainly are looking at the quarterback position in this draft. Both are scheduled to pick at the top of round 2. The Jets at 33, the Cardinals 34. Are one of those teams willing to jump up into the back end of the first round the way the New York Giants did last year for Jackson Dart, or do they just wait for the second round to roll around? That seems to be a major question right now, but there certainly seems to be some thought that one of those teams could trade up to draft Ty Simpson in the end of round 1.
And a reminder that Ty Simpson will be there in the green room at the draft. We'll be covering all of that, so we'll get to see the entire thing unfold. If he does go day 2, we'll see if he sticks around. He's planning to go day 1, I think. Still to come, the crew making some pro comparisons for top wide receivers. We love this comp game, okay? Dan explains why he believes one receiver reminds him of Odell Beckham Jr. Dan does not hold back here, you guys. We got a lot of comps coming your way. NFL Live is presented by Lowe's. Lowe's knows Sunday.
Long time.
Oh, that was really good.
I was pausing the back to you,
it.
Laura.
No, you for effect.
Appreciate you, boo.
Thank you. Appreciate
Haters
you.
gonna hate.
Hey, that was
You
pretty
do
good.
things well.
No, honestly, I think I'm out of a job.
No, you did a good job.
All the promos and anything like that going to you. Billboards.
No, it's too.
People are like, "What's she talking
That's
about?"
too much of a serious job.
No, your voice is great, though. Jordan Reed, by the way, releasing his updated mock draft today. He's got 5 wide receivers going in the first round. Look at this. Carnell Tate, 6 overall to the Browns. Mekhi Lemon at 13, heading to the Rams. Followed 3 picks later by the Jets selecting Jordan Tyson. Omar Cooper Jr. to the Panthers. Casey Concepcion donning the Steelers black and gold. That'd be fun. Okay. Let's dive a little deeper on some of these potential first-round wideouts. Everybody loves a good comp. Get crazy here. Mina, when you look at Carnell Tate, who does he remind you of?
It's when he's making plays, when he's running routes downfield, that he reminds me of this player, sort of like a bigger Devontae Smith. It's the smoothness of the route running, the way he sets up DBs with his footwork and his subtle head fakes, and then the catch radius, which is something Devontae shares as well. It is really teach tape on those 15-plus yard catches downfield. It's what makes him so enticing to NFL teams, that explosive playmaking. Without having unbelievable speed, it's entirely because of how smooth and refined he is as a runner.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm going to go to Texas A&M KC Concepcion and say Jalen Waddle, former of the Miami Dolphins, now the Denver Broncos. I just think vertical juice. Now, he's a player that you can get the ball to in a screen game and just the opportunity to take it all the way, but the juice in the route running at the top of the route is what stands out to me. The ability to create the separation in the intermediate game, and then kind of sturdy and strong enough to do something with it after you get the ball in his hands.
Yeah, Omar Cooper Jr. has a lot in common with Rashee Rice when he has the ball in his hands. It's that yak ability, and it's not because he's not a burner like Concepcion, but it's his contact balance, his vision, how smooth he is with the ball in his hands that allows him to get chunk plays similar to Rice. You think about the way he looks on those crossers. It's very easy for me to imagine Cooper Jr. doing the same thing. Also a quarterback-friendly target versus zone coverage. Just a high-floor player who I think brings similar qualities to the offense.
A future yak king. I'm Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, Odell Beckham Jr. I think number one, he is a bouncy athlete. Bouncy. When he goes up off the ground, it looks like he just hits a trampoline. The second thing is he floats in the air. I remember Odell just constantly going up to make a play on a ball, and it felt like he would float in the air longer than everybody else. The pluck, the circus catching pluck ability of the football. I think the last part is probably my favorite part. It looks like he toys with the defense. Odell had that arrogance in his game. He was just toying with guys. I see Jordan Tyson just having those similar traits where at times it looks like he's the man amongst boys on tape.
Yeah, I agree, bro. And we were in a text chat.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, wait, I went back and looked at him. I was like, bro, Odell. And it's because I actually attributed it, Dan, to the in and out quickness. Like, Odell has a soccer background.
Yeah.
So that ability to stick your foot in the ground, hit you with 2 or 3 moves, and you feel like you in hell trying to figure out what he about to do. He has some of that on this tape as well. And then you look at the tough catch ability. Like,
he makes him look easy.
He makes him look easy. Lemon does a really good job of that too at USC. But I really thought that Tyson was like, and the pedigree. His brother plays for the Cavs, right? You notice that very athletic, very competitive, and got some of that wide receiver a-hole to him that you need to have at that position in today's day and time.
Jersey.
We love that. Mina, I do think it's worth pointing out to people if you're like, well, why is he not slotted for a lot of people ahead of Carnell Tate? It's because of the injuries, right? And that is going to be a piece of this. There are some teams, Mina, that just are not going to be comfortable drafting a player as high as maybe he deserves to go because of the injury history.
Yeah, not just injuries in one season, injuries in multiple seasons, right? And then the hammy being the latest one, which we're talking about how twitchy he is, and then you couple that with a hammy, and there is some concern. But that concern is mitigated for me by the upside. You talked about Mekhi Lemon. The biggest difference is Jordan Tyson is 6'2".
Yep.
The fact that he moves the way he does at that size is what's so unique. The suddenness coupled with that frame, it makes it really hard for cornerbacks to stay with him throughout a route. And the way he snaps guys off, it actually, Odell's a fun comp. It reminds me a little bit of a young Amari Cooper, the way where he sinks and then cuts coming out of his breaks. And it's really hard for corners to stay with him on those outbreakers as well as the digs. I think it's a really, really enticing skill set. You think about the work he could do at the intermediate level, in particular in the NFL, as a high-volume target. And then, with as you guys alluded to, the body control in the hands to finish the entire process. Really, really tantalizing upside for this player.
A lot of OBJ talk here. We should note the NFL Network is reporting that he was at the Giants facility working out for his former team. So
really?
We'll keep an eye on some news there potentially. Hey, time for one more thing before we go. How about our girl Mina absolutely crushing